A very good morning. Today I'll be teaching you all about handicapped children, juvenile delinquency and child placement clinics. So initially let's see what do you mean by handicapped children? So definition of an handicap. So it is a reduction in person's capacity to fulfill a social role as a consequence of an impairment or inadequate training for the role. So here an individual is not able to perform a social role either because of an impairment or is inadequately trained for the role. So when applied to children, it is the presence of an impairment or other circumstances that are likely to interfere with normal growth and development or with the capacity to learn. So here the children are not able to undergo normal growth and development, and the child is not able to learn with the normal capacity. So this is because of an impairment. Now there is something called as an ICIDH, which is International Classification of Impairments, Disabilities and Handicaps. So here we see the disease leads to an impairment, impairment leads to disability, disability leads to handicap. So all of you know what a disease is. Now let's see what an impairment is. So as a consequence of a disease, there is an impairment. So impairment is a disturbance at the organ level. So if for example loss of limb is an impairment, or it can be loss of mental function also is an impairment. There can be damage at the organ level or at the various structures, or there can be damage even at the mental level. So this is impairment. So this impairment leads to what is called as disability. So because there is an impairment, because there is a disturbance at the organ level, so you see there is a disturbance at the level of a person. So what do you mean by disturbance at level of a person? So here the person is not able to function normally. So he or she has restricted ability to perform a particular function. So this disability leads to handicap. So here it limits or prevents the fulfillment of a role. So a person is not able to perform a role. For example, a teacher is not able to perform his or her role as a teacher, a doctor is not able to perform his or her role as a doctor, or even a student is not able to perform his or her role as a student. So this is because there is disturbance at the organ level, which leads to disturbance at the level of a person. So there is inability, functional inability, so which leads to handicap conditions. So this again can be extrinsic and intrinsic handicap. For example, if a person is blind, it is an intrinsic handicap. So what is extrinsic? Extrinsic handicap is when a person loses his parents. It's called as an extrinsic handicap. So again, handicap also is divided into primary and secondary. Primary handicap can be blindness, and secondary handicap is poverty because of blindness. Now let's see the classification of handicapped children. So handicapped children can be classified into physically handicapped, mentally handicapped and socially handicapped. So what is physically handicapped? So what are the causes? So it can be because of birth defects, it can be because of infections. For example, polio is the commonest infection leading to physical handicap, or it can be because of accidents. So these are the categories of physically handicapped. It can be blindness, deaf and mute, hair lip, cleft palate, talipes, crippled due to polio as I've already told, cerebral palsy, congenital heart disease, RTA, burns and injuries. RTA is road traffic accidents. Now let's see what is mentally handicapped condition. So this is a condition of sub-average intellectual function combined with deficits in adaptive behavior. So their intellectual function is less than the normal, which is also shown in terms of deficits in adaptive behavior. So this is mentally handicapped. So again, for any handicap we need to know what are the causes. Again, for mentally handicapped, the causes are genetic, it can be environmental, or it can be other factors. So what are the environmental factors? It can be antenatal, perinatal or postnatal. So antenatal is during the period of pregnancy, perinatal is around the time of delivery, and postnatal is after delivery. So what are the genetic causes of mentally handicapped children. So the genetic causes can be your Down syndrome, your Klinefelter syndrome, Tay-Sachs disease, galactosemia, microcephaly, congenital hypothyroidism. So these are all chromosomal defects. And next cause for mental handicap is antenatal. So during antenatal period there can be neural tube defects, Rh incompatibility, rubella, cytomegalovirus infections, syphilis, and unnecessary intake of drugs and radiation. So all these causes are 100% preventable except for the neural tube defects, but neural tube defects also can be detected early and we can take appropriate decision based on the results. Now coming to perinatal, it can be because of birth injuries which leads to mental handicapping condition. It can be because of hypoxia or it can be because of cerebral palsy. What are postnatal conditions? It can be head injuries, accidents, encephalitis, lead and mercury poisoning. So the other causes are miscellaneous, which can be because of maternal malnutrition, PEM, which is protein energy malnutrition, endemic goiter, consanguineous marriages, and pregnancy after the age of 40 years. So here we have come across the genetic conditions, the miscellaneous conditions which are the other conditions, and the environmental conditions which were divided into antenatal, perinatal and postnatal. So these were the causes of mental handicap. Now, so WHO classification for mental retardation. IQ scores are nothing but intelligent quotient scores. If it is less than 70, a person is considered to be mentally retarded. So again, amongst the mentally retarded, there are certain variations and grades. You have mild, moderate, severe and profound. So we call a person as mildly mentally retarded when he has IQ levels of 50 to 70. So when we consider as percentages, it is 70%, and moderate when the IQ is between 35 to 49, so it is 20%. Severe when the IQ is between 20 to 34, so which is 5%, and profoundly mentally retarded when the IQ scores are less than 20 and the percentage is less than 5. So now what is socially handicapped? So we've come across physical handicap, we are done with mentally handicapped. So the third one is socially handicapped. So how is socially handicapped defined? So it is defined as a child whose opportunities for a healthy personality development and a full unfolding of potentialities are hampered by certain elements in his social environment. So there are certain elements in the social environment due to which the child doesn't have opportunities for a healthy development. So what are the causes? So it can be because of parental inadequacy, environmental deprivation, or it can be because of emotional disturbances. So again, how do we prevent? So how do we prevent handicapping conditions? So one of the objectives of MCH, that is Maternal and Child Health Services, is the prevention of handicapping conditions and early management of illness. So it can be physical handicap, mental or social handicap. So how do we prevent? So what are the various levels of prevention? So as you all know, so we have primary prevention, secondary prevention and tertiary prevention. So now what do we do in primary preventions and what are the approaches? So the approaches of primary prevention include genetic counseling, because we have seen that there are quite a few genetic factors for handicapping conditions. So prevent late marriages, that is more than 30 years is discouraged. A couple should get married, especially the lady should get married within 30 years because she is the one who is going to bear the child, and consanguineous marriages should be discouraged. And the next thing is at-risk approach. People at risk of transmitting inherited diseases should be identified. So you should identify the people who are at risk and then counsel them. And then immunization. So as we have seen, there are many infections which are leading to physical handicap and sometimes even mental handicapping conditions. So immunizations can be given to prevent infections such as vaccine preventable. There are vaccine preventable diseases like polio, rubella, and a few others. So then nutrition. So again, in the causes of handicapping conditions, you have seen maternal malnutrition, protein energy malnutrition as a cause of various handicapping conditions. So proper nutrition of expectant mother will reduce a number of handicapping conditions. So the concept of healthy mother will bring out healthy baby should be highlighted. So the others in the preventive aspects are routine health care, special care of high risk women, and accident prevention. So these are the ways of prevention of handicapping conditions. So in primary preventions, you have 5 approaches, which is genetic counseling, at-risk approach, immunization, nutrition, and others. Now let's see what is secondary prevention. So secondary prevention is always early diagnosis and treatment is the rule. So early diagnosis of handicap. So through how can you diagnose early? It is through MCH and mainly through the school health services. Again, MCH is nothing but maternal and child health. So treatment. So secondary prevention is always early diagnosis and treatment. So how do you treat? So you need specialized facilities, like you may need to have physiotherapy clinics, you may need to have occupational therapy centers, you may need to have speech therapies, and prosthetics is one thing which may be essential when there is loss of limb and any other orthopedic conditions. So these are the examples, like artificial limb is a prosthetics, hearing aid again, and training and education. So training and education will come under tertiary prevention, wherein you want to rehabilitate. So you want to limit the disabilities as much as possible and you want to rehabilitate. By rehabilitation is you want to make the individual perform his role to the best of his ability, though not 100%. So whatever is possible with his conditions. So occasional guidance, wherein training for independent living is given and he or she is trained to work with what is left. So as we know, they are all children with handicap deformities. So they are trained to work with whatever is been left. So this is what is called as rehabilitation. So a person, he or she is made to work with his disability and handicapping conditions with appropriate training. So in India, there are around 150 schools and institutions which are working for handicapped children. So now let's see, the next topic is juvenile delinquency. So what is juvenile delinquency? So the objectives of this small topic is, I want to define what juvenile delinquency means, and I want to describe in detail about the causes and the means of intervention and how do we prevent. So what is juvenile delinquency? So juvenile delinquency is defined as a law violation committed by a person under the age of majority. Usual age is 18 for females or 16 for males. So this is defined as per the Children Act 1960. So juvenile delinquent person is a person who violates a law and his age being under the age of majority. So what is the age of majority? The age of majority again is slightly different for males and females. So for females it is 18 and for males it is 16. So now what are the causes of juvenile delinquency? So again there are biological causes, social causes and other causes. So biological causes again feeble-mindedness, XYY super male syndrome, glandular imbalances and hereditary defects. Social causes can be broken families, parent separation at early age, disturbed home conditions, parental neglect, etc. Other causes can be absence of healthy recreational facilities, lack of parental awareness, urbanization and industrialization, and exposure to media, slum dwelling, etc. So what are the antisocial crimes which a juvenile delinquent is usually involved in? So it can be violent crimes, it can be a simple assault, it can be a homicide, sexual assault, robbery, and assault aggravated by the use of a weapon or by an intent to kill. So what are the property crimes? It can be vandalism, burglary, motor vehicle theft. Okay. So the other antisocial crimes are weapons law violations, possession or distribution of controlled substances such as drugs, driving under the influence of liquor, drunkenness, disorderly conduct, and non-forcible sexual contact and sexual exploitation. So what can be done about it? So how do we tackle this problem? So we need to have an appropriate intervention to juvenile delinquency, which is crucial in order to help correct the delinquents' improper behavior and sends the right message to other youth. So again, when it comes to prevention, early intervention can prevent juvenile delinquency from evolving into adult criminal behavior. If you intervene early, you can prevent this delinquent into evolving into an adult criminal behavior. So what do you mean by prevention, or what do you do in prevention? Here, improvement of family life. So as we had seen, imbalance in family life was one of the cause of juvenile delinquency. So you have to improve the family life. As well, adjusted family stems tide of delinquency. So a well adjusted family stems the tide of delinquency is a proven fact. So improvement of family is important, and proper schooling and behavioral training. So healthy teacher pupil relationship. So school is very important, and in school again a healthy teacher pupil relationship is very important. And then social welfare services like parent guidance, child guidance, and adequate general health facilities. The parent also needs a guidance as to how to deal with this kind of children, and children also need to have guidance in the child guidance clinic. So it's a team approach, and of course we need to have adequate general health facilities. So intervention, coming to intervention, there is something called as the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015, which is a primary legal framework for justice in India with respect to juvenile delinquency. And here the delinquent children are sent to special rehabilitation juvenile homes until they reach the age of 21, wherein schooling and other occasional vocational services are provided here. So that's about juvenile delinquency. The last topic for today will be about the child guidance clinic and child placements. As I said, child guidance clinic is one of the intervention or the preventive measures to prevent juvenile delinquency. So let's see what are the other functions of child guidance clinics. So what is a child guidance clinic? So the first child guidance clinic was started in Chicago by 1909, and ever since they have grown in number and complexity throughout the world. Originally intended to deal with problem of juvenile delinquency, but later on many other aspects were included under child guidance clinic. So child guidance clinic deals with all children or adolescents who for one reason or the other are not fully adjusted to their environment. So as I said earlier, child guidance clinics were done to deal with juvenile delinquency, and later on, so child guidance clinics were supposed to deal with all children or adolescents who for one reason or the other are not fully adjusted to their environment. So what is the objective of this child guidance clinic? So to prevent children from the possibility of becoming neurotics and psychotics. So that is a primary objective, and to make mentally challenged into mentally active, physically strong and socially competent individuals. So when there are disabled children, when you see poor and needy children, when you see orphans, so you want to, these are all mentally challenged people. So you want to make these mentally challenged into mentally active and physically strong and socially competent individuals. So you're addressing the social component, mental component and the physical component. So your primary objective of a child guidance clinic is to prevent the possibility of children turning into neurotics and psychotics. So again, child guidance clinic is a teamwork. No one individual can deal with the children's problem. So it can, no pediatrician alone can deal, no psychiatrist alone can deal. So it is a teamwork, and let's see who are all the team members of this child guidance clinic. So it comprises of a psychiatrist, it comprises of a clinical psychologist, an educational psychologist, and psychiatric social workers. You have public health nurses, you have a pediatrician, there is a speech therapist, occupational therapist, and there is a neurologist. So roughly you can see around 10 people who form a team to run the child guidance clinic. So of all, psychiatrist is a central figure and is helped by others arriving at the correct diagnosis. So what are the services of child guidance clinics? So pediatrics take care of physical health of a child. Core therapy is psychotherapy in order to restore positive feelings of security in the child, which is very, very important. And to achieve this, many methods are employed. Example, play therapy, counseling, suggestions, change in the physical environment, easing of parental tensions, reconstruction of parental attitudes. So now let's see what are the different child placement places. So you have something called as orphanages, foster homes, adoption centers, brothels, and remand homes. So let's see in detail about each one of us briefly. So what are orphanages? So children who have no home or who for some reason could not be cared by their parents are placed in the orphanages. So there is little opportunity for the child to experience the warmth and intimacy of family life, to develop emotional security, and to participate in activities that would help him to become an adequate citizen. So yes, the children are placed in orphanages because they don't have any parental care for various reasons. But however, they lack this emotional support from the family. So what are foster homes? Foster care is a term applied to several types of facilities for rearing children other than in their natural families. These foster homes are temporary arrangements wherein there is one parental separation or there is a death of a parent. So the children are placed under a distant relative or a distant family member on a temporary basis till the condition improves or till the environmental conditions can be restored. So later on they will be placed with their own parents. It can be either one parent or both the parents. And the good foster homes will provide the child with security, love, and affection that is needed. Next is hostels. So here boys over 16 years who are too difficult to be handled in a certified school or have misbehaved there or sent to brothels. So this institution falls in a category between a certified school and an adult prison. So a brothel sentence, which is usually for 3 years, is regarded as a method of training and reformation. Here a child is given adequate training and is ensured, or the idea is to reform the child. So there are about 6 brothels for boys in India but not for girls, and these brothels do not come under the Children Act but are governed by the State Inspector General of Prisons. So now what are remand homes? So the child is placed under the care of doctors, psychiatrists, and other trained personnel in remand homes. Every effort is made to improve the mental and physical well-being of the child, and elementary schooling is given, various arts and crafts are taught, games and other recreational activities are arranged in remand homes. So what do you mean by adoption, or what are adoption centers? Here children are legally adopted, and legal adoption confers upon the child and adoptive parents rights and responsibilities similar to that of natural parents. So if a parent wants to adopt a child, he or she should ensure that the couple will show warm and natural love for children and they are financially capable of rearing this child. So these are some of the questions for discussion which will be done on Wednesday afternoon. So I expect you all to go through the presentations and learn about all these. So we will have discussion about all these questions on Wednesday afternoon. So there are around roughly around 10 questions. Please go through them and come prepared for the discussion class. Thank you.